Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I just had a first to happen. Started to feel like I was going to sneeze just as the show started, but it subsided, so we can continue with our celebration of people who are in the trenches across the great state of Mississippi from right here in the Citizens Bank studio. The people who are working so hard to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. You know, we look back on last week, all the snow, all the inclement weather, especially in coastal Mississippi, people still posting photos and whatever. What an unusual event that was. My goodness, looking back on it, it was beautiful for sure. But I remember a guy that I hired from Alaska once, and he said, "Look, when it snowed in Alaska, it stayed that way for months and months and months. And of course, in the wintertime, you only get to see the sun there. Is it what is it, an hour or maybe 2 hours a day?" I can't even imagine living in that situation. I think we live in coastal Mississippi especially because we love the tropical environment. But every now and then, it's nice to see the purity of white snow and all of that. That's pretty cool. So we're looking back on what might be just a once in a lifetime experience for so many of us. I want to share two quotes that just came across. I don't know who said this one, but it just hit me. Don't wait too long. Life takes unexpected turns, and we don't always know how much time. We don't always have the time we think we have. You know, we talk about that a lot on this show about living in the moment. Too many people don't. They worry too much about tomorrow. They worry about yesterday. They're not thinking enough about this moment. And if they did, I think they would enjoy life a whole heck of a lot more. And then this one, I think, is really important because a lot of people on social media, they worry too much about what other people think. And here's something that John Wooden, the coach, said: "Worry about your character, not your reputation. Your character is who you are. Your reputation is who people think you are." I think that's terrific. Your character is who you are. And if we would just focus on doing the right things and being the best version of ourselves, I think everything else would kind of work out. And you know what? If someone's got the wrong impression of you, so be it. What difference does it make? Go do what you want to do and love the people around you and enjoy life and live in the moment, and you'll be happy you did. Okay, so now let's shift gears. We're going to be visiting with my friend Sally Doty, who has a very, very important job as the Mississippi director of the Office for Broadband Expansion and Accessibility. We know it as BEAM. And then Kyle, my buddy, my producer, is going to join us for the second half of the show, and we're just going to catch up on some issues. So, Sally, without any further ado, how you doing?
I'm great on this cold day. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're fresh back from the inauguration. You went to the Mississippi party. You got to go to a big rally there. Tell me about it. Tell me about your experience.
We had a great experience. I went with one of my colleagues I served in the Senate for 10 years, so I went with Senator Rita Parks. My daughter lives in D.C., so we were able to stay with her at her apartment, and we had the best time. The atmosphere was fabulous. And I will tell you, my overall takeaway was the emphasis on God and the importance of prayer and scripture. Every event started with it. It was a real difference than maybe some things I'd seen in the past. So, but just we met people from California, from Arizona, from Florida who were there, and often didn't get into any of the events, because there were a tremendous amount of people there standing in line and a lot of security. So we even missed one event because you just could not get through the barriers they'd created. We couldn't find a cross street that wasn't blocked off by National Guard. So, but we had a fabulous time. Got to visit with Senators Cindy Hyde-Smith, Senator Roger Wicker, with our congressman at a Mississippi event, and then just we watched, like everybody, we ended up watching the swearing-in ceremony on TV. But with some other Mississippians around. So it was a great weekend.
Well, listen, anytime that I'm in in D.C., almost said New York City, anytime I'm in D.C., I don't care how many times I've been there. Been there for week-long meetings and went to the American Press Institute
Mhm.
3 or 4 times. And of course, as a publisher, made many visits there over a long period of time. It doesn't matter. I always had this sense that I'm among history, and I'm
Oh,
around something that's such an important part of America. And this, and of course, if you're a Trump supporter, and I know you are, and you're conservative, being there in that moment to observe for yourself the resilience of Trump and what that means to Trump supporters, but what it really means to this country. At least that's what you believe it means to this country. To be there in that moment historically you had to feel it.
you did. It was just such a great feeling. And again, to see so many Americans from all different walks of life and all different places. We were in line. We went to Arlington National Cemetery to watch the changing of the guard. We were standing in line with some folks from Alaska. He was a veteran. So many people. There was a cute family in front of us at the Trump rally. We were there on Sunday, with their children there. And another thing, we did see so many young people there, and it was great to see that movement in support of the president, and being there in the midst of it. It was a great experience.
Well, Sally, watching it on TV, that's the thing that you notice the most is the number of people that just came from all over the country. And just they didn't really they didn't have a Mississippi
Yeah.
party to go to. They didn't have special tickets to events, and they just came to be there. And some of them stood in line and took their chances, and some had been staying in line forever and ever and ever in a cold situation, and they didn't have any other goal other than they just wanted to be there. And there were a lot of
Mhm.
people that fit that description, aren't there?
There are just thousands and thousands of people, and it was bitter cold. I mean, it's the same cold we have here now with a wind blowing. It was freezing, but everyone was wrapped up. Everyone was polite, in a good mood. It was. I went in 2017, so wanted to go back in 25. I will say I think this is probably my last one, but because there is so much. You walk. You can. Transportation is difficult,
Yeah.
and then there's so much security, but totally worth it to have that experience and just to witness that peaceful transfer of power. It is awe-inspiring to me, and I know to so many people in Mississippi and across our nation. It's incredible, and I was just glad to be a part of it in a
Well,
small
listen,
way.
yeah, you and I have had many, many conversations about the office, the Mississippi Broadband office, and the role that broadband plays in Mississippi's economic future. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a critical part of that. The issue of connectivity,
Mhm.
bringing the internet and high-speed internet to places in Mississippi and rural areas, given that 51% of Mississippians live in rural areas, is critical to the progress of our state. So you've been very committed in rolling out a plan that gets access to as many people as possible, as fast as possible. And I know it's been a reassuring process as you continue to connect people, but I want to get an update. So why don't we do this? Give us, when you give someone the elevator speech to what you do, how do you talk about it?
My office is the state broadband office, created about 2 years ago in anticipation of a lot of federal funding coming down to build out high speed internet to every address, every location in Mississippi. So we had to determine what locations needed service and stand up a grant program to funnel this federal funding down. So that is what we have done. We already have about $140 million out. We have a $1 billion that we are going to access to finish that job. And we've been progressing through the steps of that, and we will open that round of grant applications here in the next couple of months. We may have a few changes with the new administration, so we're waiting to hear about that. But right now we have about 125,000 households in Mississippi that are unserved. And for those of us who maybe live in town or live in an area where a co-op is serving, their broadband affiliate is serving, it's hard to remember what it was like before high-speed internet. But it is such a part of our daily lives now, and it's so important to get this service out to all of our Mississippians. And so that is what we work on every day, all day at my office.
Well, listen, you and I, again, we've talked about this for people who have not heard us before. The bill that Mississippi passed that gave electric co-ops the opportunity to get into this business, and then combined with the efforts that you're involved in, if you think back at the progress that Mississippi's made in just the past 5 years, it's truly remarkable, isn't it?
It is remarkable, and so many people don't understand how fast we've moved in Mississippi. That co-op build-out is really we call it another Mississippi miracle, because they've just built out so fast and covered so much area. So often people say Mississippi is so unserved, and I'm like, have you really looked at it lately? Because we have done a tremendous amount of work.
It's true transformation. When we get back on the other side, we'll continue this part of the conversation with Sally Doty, who is the director of the Mississippi Broadband Office. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We have Sally Doty with us today, who's the director of the Mississippi Broadband Office. We know it as BEAM, and she's been on the show many times before. But if you haven't heard us before, this is a really important conversation, because you go back. I mean, again, we were talking about before we went to break. In 5 years, the amount of progress that Mississippi has made is truly remarkable. And me having the opportunity to spend a lot of time in the Mississippi Delta, especially this time of year, I've made the point that during the time when the electric co-ops were laying down the fiber optic lines, I don't know how many thousands of miles of line they've laid down, but I watched that happening, and it was aggressive. It was, they were on a mission to get to as many houses as they possibly could. But even with all those efforts, there's still going to be a large number, over 100,000, as Sally just mentioned, that still are in areas that are not served by co-ops that need service. And this office is really focused on doing that. But when you add it all together, what this means in terms of potential progress for Mississippi by making every household have the opportunity to be able to learn and maybe even do their jobs remotely or whatever it might be. Mississippi was in the dark ages. It's not anymore, is it, Sally?
It is not. And, Ricky, I just think about the different things that could help. Some of Mississippi's problems that we have, like any other rural state, for example, access to health care, and then having some really high level rural education. We're going to be able to fix that if you have access to the internet, which is just a wealth of resources. We have one thing that's kind of near and dear to me, I guess, because I'm a mom and a grandmother now, is, we have such a high rate of infant and maternal mortality. And so there are so many monitoring devices and things that can be used to help combat that. But you've got to have more than cell phone service to do that. You've got to have access to high-speed internet. So actually, my office, we're working with UMMC on something, and we hope to provide that quickly to really make a dent, hopefully, in those numbers. But it's a tremendous resource that we have in the internet, and in just all the different aspects of it and what you can use it for.
So when you come in for, you guys have so much you're working on at any given time, but why don't you kind of give us an update on some of the hot button items you're working on these days?
I will. So we have just awarded our second round of one funding program, which was under ARPA, the ARPA money that came to Mississippi. And so we have just finished another $30 million round in that. I was just looking at those, and let's see, it's everywhere from Bay Springs to Lawrence County, Lumberton, Sumrall, Liberty. There was a real area in the southwest part of the state that needed service that did not have some prior funding. So many of those areas are included. So it's really cool to see this start happening. So we've done that second round of funding. So with that ARPA money, we have all of it out the door except for about $3 million, and we're going to put that into one of those projects. So we're kind of closing the door on that, on ARPA, and it goes into the different phase. It's going into the construction phase now. We've got all the money awarded, the grant agreement signed. So it's now we will move towards that remaining 125,000 unserved through the BEAD, BEAD, sounds like BEAM, but it's BEAD, which is that federal funding program to reach everybody else. So to do that, we've had to develop project areas. We've looked at where the unserved locations are, what would be a good project area that would be that a provider could come in and take, because this doesn't exist in a vacuum. You just can't. You got to have the fiber coming into the middle mile fiber available. So we've developed, we started with county supervisor districts. So I can tell you how many are unserved in any supervisor district in the state of Mississippi. I have it all broken down. I know how much it costs to reach them. So we have those in project areas. And our providers are looking at that right now to give us some input, because we recognize that we may not see some things that they do because they're on the ground. And it is ultimately these internet service providers who will get this funding, who will participate in this grant to build it out. So once they've commented on it, we will make sure everything's correct. We have a couple of more federal approvals we have to get. And then we will open up the application process and determine what provider gets what project area. And so my hope is that by May or June, I should be able to tell anyone in Mississippi, anyone that still doesn't have high-speed internet, I should be able to tell them, okay, this is the provider that has the responsibility and the funding to build out to your house. This is it. They're coming. It might take them a little bit because these are large-scale construction projects. But, this is a step further than we've ever been to know who has that responsibility, who has the funding, and they're coming. And I'm going to give them that provider's phone number. Because we do. We have a lot of people who call in. Ricky, I would like to remind your audience, if internet is a problem with you, to look at our map that we have on our website. We have one of the best maps in the nation because we knew that data is just so important. Really knowing where these unserved are, knowing where there's already federal funding is so important. So our map is on our website at our agency, and it's beam, BEAM.ms.gov. Beam, BEAM.ms.gov. I think you can probably put, if you want to search, put Mississippi Broadband map. I think it comes up. And it's better to look at it on a computer. You can see it on your cell phone and use it, but you can't use all the functions of it. So you can go to our map, put your address in, or go to your address and click on it, and it will tell you what service is available in your area. So what we've seen is there's some addresses missing. That's just always going to happen. Or there might be some problem, or it might say something you don't agree with. I would encourage you to let our office know if that is the case. Give us a call. Shoot us an email. An email is really the best way. We monitor an email. It's info@beam.ms.gov. Monitor that every day. We talk on the phone and help people every day. But we're required to use as our kind of base level the federal data that comes down. So we have a limited ability to fix it, but there are some ways. And so we need to know if there are any issues with our map.
Well, some of the changes you expect, we've been, obviously, with the change in administration, there's a lot of focus on regulations and other federal requirements that make it so hard to spend their money, or spend, really, I say their money, our money.
It is.
Are you expecting to see things streamlined?
I am. I keep hearing rumors from different people. I had several texts and emails this morning from other state broadband directors. I'm in a group with them and keep up with them, but we haven't heard anything yet. But I do expect there have been a tremendous tremendous amount of regulations, hoops that we have had to jump through in administering this program that I do not think will be maintained. So we are looking for a more streamlined process that will allow us to get this money out the door and into construction where it needs to be.
And the money's already committed, so there's not a huge DOGE concern, is there?
I don't think so. I don't think so. The money is committed now. We do have one other program that we're administering that I think instead of having two rounds of funding, we'll only have one. But I think the money is fine because this is so needed. I talked to Senator Wicker about it when I was in D.C. Thursday night. So he thinks we're going to be fine, and I think any changes that are going to be made will be beneficial to our build out here in Mississippi.
Yeah, I would think that he and Cindy Hyde-Smith and Governor Reeves and all of our state leaders are in lockstep about what broadband access means to Mississippi. Because, you think about, I've said this many times on my show, but Tate Reeves will go down as an economic development governor, and no one's going to argue with that.
Without a doubt.
The tens of billions of dollars that are being invested in Mississippi. You have to think that our aggressive this part of it, how aggressive we're approaching broadband access in our state, plays into the formula somewhere about, we're really serious about this.
It certainly does. Having all of this fiber in the state and having it accessible is certainly a part of that equation. We think we're going to have a bit of funding for some additional projects after we reach those 125,000, and we're going to use that in a way that will directly impact economic development in Mississippi.
Yeah, that is so good. Sally, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. We probably ought to get together more often.
We should. Thank you very much, and stay warm and build a snowman.
Hey, for sure. This has been Sally Doty, and listen, it's always good to get an update on what's happening in Mississippi. Our efforts to connect each of us to the World Wide Web and the internet is so important for so many reasons, not the least of which is economic development. When we come back, my buddy in crime will be joining me, the producer of this show, Kyle Curley. We'll see you after this.